One thing I know has been a challenge is clearing cases. And with all due respect, understanding the difficulty both on the policing side and on the prosecutorial side of bringing these cases to court and getting a conviction, what are the checks and balances? Often, my perception at least from what I've seen over these years, is that often there's some physical evidence, but there's a lot of reliance on eyewitness testimony. And as we've heard, when there's groups that are having these battles, eyewitnesses may have a different agenda. So what are some of the checks and balances that will help us to be able to effectively clear more cases and be confident that we're convicting the right individuals?
As far as witnesses that have another agenda, I mean, sometimes in cases in working with, say, like confidential informants and things of that nature, those individuals may have an agenda, and if you don't have the right handler, the police officer, working with that individual, then you could be getting misinformation. But there are things that you're supposed to do along the way to make sure that that information and that particular individual is working within the system. There are things that they're supposed to do. So, and if that's not being done, then that's on the police department.
Dan, you want to add something?
Yeah, if I could. Thanks. To your point with the checks and balances, speaking from experience now, so as a criminal prosecutor, I'm going to put that hat on. Big trial comes in and there is a shooting that the downtown vision camera actually panned off. It was in the motorized form, panned off at the exact wrong moment. Okay. We had, from that camera, we were able to know that there was no short of 20, 30 people that were outside when a man was gunned down. The homicide case, just giving you an example, when you have a case like that, and you have multiple eyewitnesses that are there, it is extremely difficult to get cooperation. And as I told people in the jury as well, at the end of the day, all the officers and the prosecutors and the judges, we get to go home at night. But the individuals that are there witnessing it are home. And when we talk about an environment or a culture of what's happening on the streets with these individuals, it's very difficult to get somebody to come up there. I come in my suit and tie and say, hey, just talk to me here, right? Because after I'm done, right, I mean, you can see me again, I get to go home. There are real consequences out on, or at least perceived, right? And there are things that we can do, and there are certainly victim assistance, and we've done that. But when you get into the culture on the streets that no one wants to say anything, victims included, and that becomes a very difficult obstacle. Doesn't mean you can't prosecute. We've had cases where, in a serious enough issue, where you have to put witnesses in jail, and that's a terrible thing, right? But if it's serious enough and there's bad things happening and somebody has to pay for it, so there's very difficult things. But the checks and balances, the officers on a murder or a big investigation, they can't bring the charge without going to the court first with an arrest warrant. Our office can't indict that person without probable cause that it existed. And then the ultimate checks and balance, right, is unlike what we call the CSI effect. I mean, it's not going to be solved. Like most of the time, your fingerprints aren't found on guns, right? It's not like a magical, amazing thing that happens where you commit the crime. We're going to know it because DNA and everything's going to tell us. Most of the time, you have 6 or 7 different DNAs on there, and there's different things that go on. But the CSI effect, the ultimate checks and balance, are people like you, because at the end of the day, we have to get up, show what the officers have done, and argue that this in fact did happen after we get the witnesses. So that's to answer your checks and balances question. And it is difficult. It's very difficult, and it's real. In order to counteract that, that's why we're here. That's what we're talking about. Because the communities are stronger, they're going to feel safer, they're going to be more willing to stand up and fight back when there's an injustice on the street.